The thing that most parents do as a mistake is that they undermine the child. By the time the child is 2, 3 years old, he or she already knows both of your characters in terms of you being the mother, in terms of you being the father. You see, so whatever's going to come out of your mouth, your child already knows whether you're contradicting yourself or you're confirming your own character. And children are most likely to do as they see you do, not what you tell them to do. So some parents will tell the child to do certain things which they don't do. They'll tell their children not to lie, but they lie. How do they lie? When they make a promise to the child, they say, you know what, if you do well in your grades this year, I'm going to buy you a bicycle. And the child, motivated by the fact that they're going to get a present, they do well. They sacrifice certain things that other kids do. And at the end of the year, when the father's supposed to give to fulfill the promise, and then the father, maybe at the time is going through a period, they don't have the money. Instead of sitting the child down and saying, in fact, instead of doing it before that time arrives and say, you know what, son, I know I promised you a bicycle, that if you do well, I'm going to buy you a bicycle. And literally, just be honest, because of 1, 2, 3 in the household, I will not be able to buy you a bicycle. You see, I'm sorry about that. I'm not going to be able, but I'm going to try to do it at this time. You're reasoning with the child, and the child will understand. But when you wait for the child to come and tell you and say, but dad, you said you're going to buy me a bicycle. And say, when the child comes to you and tell you that, dad, you said you're going to buy me a bicycle. Where's my bicycle? Here's my grades. I did more than you asked for. You say, well, okay, so what am I supposed to do now? This is for your own future. You see, I don't have to buy your bicycle just because you did well. And you start shouting at the child, you start, so your own incompetence as a parent, you're taking it out on your child. Your own flaws in character, in terms of being a liar, in terms of not being able to fulfill your own promise to your kids, you're taking it out on your kid. You see that? But you want to talk about children being honest, children telling the truth, children doing what they said they're going to do, but you're not able to do that. So the child already can see that you're not who you claim to be. You're a liar, you're a pretender. And a child can literally in his heart say that my father is a liar, but will never be able to tell you because you're their father and you're still able to buy them bread and shoes. They're just waiting for the time to be able to have their own money so they could buy the things that you're supposed to buy them. So they could tell you exactly what they think of you. Do you see that? Because how many, if you've been a child before, everybody has been a child before, don't you think there were times when your parents were saying something to you in terms of trying to teach you something and you felt like, well, you can be saying what you're saying, but that's not exactly what you do yourself. You felt that and you wanted to say it, but because you're a child, you couldn't say it. But now today's children are not intimidated. Today's children are not afraid because there's no more corporal punishment. So they're able to answer back and tell you, come on, dad, you keep telling me you're going to buy this and then, but you never do it. Do you see that? And the only way you can react because you feel like you're disrespected, but you're disrespecting the truth, is to do what? Is to beat up the child. And when you start beating up the child, you're becoming abusive. And when you're becoming abusive, now you're destabilizing the child's life, the child's childhood. You understand? And when the child becomes destabilized, they are more ripe to be taken advantage of by people outside of your own home because you failed to win the child's heart. What people don't realize, what parents don't realize, that a child might be born very small, not be able to speak, not be able to do anything but you still have to win that child. You have to win that child's trust. You have to convince that child that you can be a good parent to them. You see, because it is the child who gives you the right to be a parent to them. Have you realized that? I'm not saying that you go and say, can I be your father? No. It is the things that you do for the child, the way that you treat the child, that the child feel like they need you. A child can feel like by the time they're 6 years old that they don't need you. But because they can never tell that they don't need you, they're just waiting for the time to be able to do the things that you do for them so they can tell you. So the reason why children are disrespectful, they are fighting their own teachers, they are pushing their own teachers upon desks in their classroom and other kids are laughing, they're beating up their own parents, is because they come from broken homes. And people believe that a broken home is a home where maybe the father doesn't work or the father is not there, the mother is a single parent. They think that you can find a broken home in which the father and the mother works. Have you realized that? It is broken because there's no one watching the kids. It is broken. The fact that there's no one watching your own child in terms of you as a mother or him as a father, this is a broken home. It is a broken home. What's supposed to happen was that there must be somebody who takes the child to school and collect the child from school. And that person must be the parent of the child, so that when you arrive at the school, when you go to collect the child, you can see if the child has been up to some mischief or the child has been going through bullying. But the problem is that if the child has been bullied or the child is going through is being mischievous in school, you get to see the child after 5, after 6. By that time, the child has cried, and there was nothing that can comfort him, and he comforted himself. And you're late. You see why? Because you have to go and make money. So these kids come from this kind of homes. There's no discipline, there's no love, there's no teaching, there's no culturing, there's no discipling. So they go out, and what they reflect is exactly what's in their house. When you see a child talking back at their own teacher, just know that they talk back at their own father and mother. When you see a child reasonably reasoning with their teacher and say that I don't agree because of that in a respectful manner, that is what their parents have taught them. The problem is that, parents like to take credit for when the child turns out well, even though they've never taught them anything that child is doing. If a child turns out well, respectful, the kind of person who wants to do good, to help other people, parents want to claim him, that's my son. But they don't remember teaching the child that. Somehow the child just learned that. But they become shocked when even the child starts to reflect exactly what is going on in their home, the brokenness that is going on in their home. Children are violent because they come from broken homes. And broken homes are not only in the townships, in the hood. You can come from a very well high class suburban home where both the mother and the father are working, but still be a broken home because no one is watching over you. No one is teaching you anything. And the worst part is that these children which we're seeing on social media, fighting their own teachers, swearing at their own teachers, answering back at their teachers in a disrespectful manner. These are the future of our countries. These are the future mothers and the future fathers. These are the future presidents and the future premiers. These are the future CEOs of companies. Yet we think that the future looks good. The future can look good in terms of, economy is growing, creation of jobs, but what you're gonna have is lawless, disciplined, uncaring, unloving CEOs, presidents, and workers, and fathers and mothers, because they were never taught how to love, because they never received the love. Do you see that? This is a huge problem. Children's behavior in schools, in the streets, everywhere is a reflection of the kind of homes which they come from. It's a reflection of the kind of environments which they are brought up in. Do you see? So we act shocked as if we don't know. We do know. It is because of the way the children are raised. It's because of the way that they're treated, that they behave the way that they behave. But we don't want to admit that there's something wrong with the family unit. We don't want to admit that there's something wrong with both the man and the woman working. That's why this will continue. We don't want to admit that we have to reform. We have to go back and change things. We have to go back and change the way the family is structured. If we were to, curb this problem of disrespectful kids to their teachers, to people in the streets. We think that as long as we have money, as long as the child has money to inherit, as long as the child goes to a good school, that we have done well. No. What about the soul of the child? What about the character of the child? Who builds that? Who disciplines that? No one. Why? Because there's independent women and there's men who cannot love their wives, that the women don't see any need to work. Do you see that? So we have men who cannot even provide for their own wives, to a point where the wife sees that, why should I work? I mean, my husband will do everything for me. So because the women can't trust the men because of the way the men are treating them, they have to work. And because the women have to work, now the kids are left to fend for themselves. They're left to think for themselves. They're left to learn for themselves what culture is. And the only culture they could learn is on television. And pop culture is not culture. Do you see that? So this issue is going to continue and it's going to get worse. Why? Because unless the family reforms, even in Christianity is a problem. A lot of Christian parents are shocked. Why? After taking the child to church on a Sunday and the child goes to university, and then when he comes back, he believes in evolution. Because you never disciplined the child. You never discipled the child. You never taught the child about Christ. And what's worse is when parents say they don't have any problem. I once had a colleague who said that, he was raised in a Christian family. He went to a Christian school from primary school all the way up to university. And after university, he came back and told his parents that he doesn't believe in Christ anymore. And then the parents didn't have any problem with that. And I was shocked. And I didn't want to hurt his feelings because I didn't want to tell him that, no, your parents are not Christian. Somebody said, what do you mean they're not Christian? If you're a Christian, you know that there's hell and heaven. You know what God is going to do to those who do not believe in Christ. He's going to destroy them in hell forever and forever. So if your son comes back from varsity or from wherever and tells you that they don't believe in Christ anymore, already you're seeing your child choosing hell over heaven. Are you not going to weep over that? Are you not going to do all you can to convince the child? Are you not going to pray and weep to God to save your child? Because you know that route which he's taking leads to destruction. But the promise that you accept it, that you don't have any problem with it. What does that mean? It means that you yourself are not convinced about the teachings of Christ. You yourself are not convinced about the teachings of the Bible. Because there's no way that you could be saying that, let's say your house is on fire, and your house is on fire, and then after taking your child and everything that you could take out of the house, while you're outside, when the house is about to be completely consumed by the fire, your son tells you that no, he forgot his PlayStation game in the house and he's gonna go back and get it. Are you gonna let him go back, knowing that the house any minute can collapse under the fire? You're not gonna let him go back. You'd rather even knock him out than to let him go back. But it's the same thing. The fact that you're letting your child to say that they don't believe in God, they don't believe in Christ, and you accept that as the life that they've chosen, means that you're letting your child go back into a house which is on fire, which will collapse any time because of the fire, because of a game. You see that? If you can see that, then you understand why it doesn't make any sense for any Christian parent to accept and just accept that it is just their choice when their son or their daughter says that they no longer believe in God and they don't believe in Christ. That is the thing, isn't it? Children reflect everything that their parents have taught them. I reflect everything that my parents have taught them. But some children can just go opposite what their parents have taught them. Parents can teach children good, they can go opposite. Parents can teach children bad, they can go opposite. Do you see? But parents must desire that their children go the route which is good. But the only way you can desire that your children go the route which is good is if you're good and you know what good is. So parents must look at themselves and be flabbergasted with themselves. They must be angry at themselves. But the problem is that this has been a long time coming, isn't it? Because the people who are parents now are the children who in the 80s and the 70s were being neglected, were not being disabled. Well, that's when this liberation thing came, you see? So now they are parents. They don't know any better. Why? Because they were also thrown into the school system. People who were children in the 80s who were thrown into the school system while both parents were working are now parents. So how can they know any better if they were also thrown into the school system? And because they have jobs, because they have money, because they have nice houses, because they have nice cars, they think their life turned out well. Because we look at turn out well in terms of I have things, I don't have things. If I have things, I think my life turned out well. I don't look at my character. I don't look at my Christ likeness. I don't look at my love for other fellow human beings. Because I don't look at that. I look at progress in terms of my own life. That's why it's easy for a parent to say that my life turned out well, because even though my parent did not look after me, even my parent didn't discipline me or teach me the ways of Christ or teach me according to the will of God, I got money, I got a car, and I got a house. So my life turned out well. So when they take their children and throw them into the school system, to prepare them for jobs, but hoping that they can come out disciplined and loving God, loving Christ, they don't think they're doing anything wrong, because they themselves, they don't think there's anything wrong with themselves. You see, so if a child was not watched, a child was not taught anything about character, about love, about Christ, about righteousness, about holiness, and that child grows up in the 80s, that child goes to university, that's a good, take a good course, and that which pays a lot of money, gets a good job and gets paid a lot of money, and then buys a car and a house. And that child now is a parent, and she or he understand that this is how they were raised. They don't see anything wrong with throwing the child in the school system without teaching them anything, without disciplining them or disciplining them. Why? Because they went through the same thing, and then things didn't go bad for them. Most parents are just worried about taking a child to a good school, making sure that a child get a good qualification, and then after that, a child get a good job, and after that, a child can make good money. That's all they're worried about. Discipline, character building, love for other fellow human beings, they don't care about that. Because that's how we define progress, the accumulation of goods and money. But we don't realize that if a man is selfish and self-serving and does not love his neighbor as himself, whatever he's going to accumulate, he's just going to use it for himself. You see, he's just going to do things for himself. He's not going to do anything for anyone, because he was never taught to give, to love, to do good, to do to others what they would like them to do unto them. Yet we're shocked. Let's not be shocked. This is a reflection of how society is. And unless we change our ways, things are going to get worse. One day you're going to hear that a child has shot his own school teacher. You see? So that's where the problem is coming from. They're coming from broken homes. They're coming from ill-disciplined homes. They're coming from violent homes. Not necessarily physically violent homes, just houses which don't have love and the right atmosphere for a child to be raised in a good way, to be disciplined, to be cultured, to be Christ-like. See, that's where these kids are coming from. And in the school system, in public, they're reflecting that. And And that's it. That's all that I have to say about the subject. Why children are becoming more that's all I have to say about the subject. Why children are becoming more lawless, uncultured, ill-disciplined, and I'm Christ-like. Thank you for watching.